So much energy. I feel like this is really a hard place for introverts to be right now, right, Dahlia? Those of you who know El-Hibri events know that they like people to begin with a personal narrative, which also is extremely challenging for people like us. But in the personal is the universal, and I think any experience I've had is probably mirrored in Dahlia's life, since we've had similar paths in many ways. So I begin by telling you about the winter of 2007 when I was flying back home to Hartford, Connecticut from Indiana after an ISNA meeting, or I might have been in Ohio or somewhere else in the Midwest to visit a mosque or to give a lecture. I tried looking back at my old calendars recently to figure it out, and I had to close them. I felt almost the nausea of vertigo looking at all the travel and lectures and meetings and events listed there. In any case, I was flying in a small regional jet, the kind with 2 seats on the right side of the aisle and 1 seat on the left. I was in one of the left seats beside the cold, dark window as we flew at night in unsettled weather. Suddenly, without warning, the plane dropped, far and fast, and it felt like the breath was being sucked out of my chest. Immediately, 3 thoughts entered my mind. First, the Shahada, the statement of faith. I bear witness that there's no God but God, and that Muhammad is the messenger and servant of God. Second, I thought, thank God my husband isn't traveling with me, but is home with the kids, so at least they'll have one parent left if this plane goes down. And third, thank God I submitted my book manuscript to the publisher last week, because I'd be really ticked off if after doing all that hard work, it sat unread on my hard drive. Priorities. I think there are many in this audience who have a public role, including Dahlia, who have had similar experiences. We live in a whirlwind of community service, meetings, lectures, travel, worship, family crises, writing, meeting career milestones, and more travel. For me, the first decade of the 2000s was particularly hectic. For many of us, it was hectic. It was unpredictable. It was also a time for creativity, for making alliances, for being strong and hopeful in the face of shocking events. I met Dahlia during that time as she and I crisscrossed the country, trying to be helpful, trying to be of service, trying to find ways to do something of benefit and to avert harms from our Muslim and American communities as far as possible. There wasn't much time for friends in those days. At least I know that's what had to drop out of my life for a while, and I missed my friends. But sometimes Dahlia and I ended up in the same place, such as a 2008 meeting with political influencers at a conference center somewhere in Virginia horse country to agree on policy recommendations for the next president. I don't think I contributed much to the meeting, frankly, but then and since then, I really appreciated Dahlia's expertise, her methodical presentations, and the irresistible logic of her cold, hard facts. Today, if photos of us at that meeting showed up on social media, we might be excoriated for talking with the enemy. But I think we did the best we could, and we still do, by consulting with wise and knowledgeable people before embarking on significant initiatives. Only God knows the long-term benefits and harms of any of our work, and I ask God to forgive our shortcomings. I pray that this award is a blessing and a means for Dahlia to continue to serve God, her community, and humanity through her excellent work.
And these are times of widespread divisiveness, mutual suspicion, fear-mongering, and demagoguery. It is imperative that there be people who are dedicated to the hard work of uncovering, highlighting, and disseminating the truth. especially about Islam and Muslims. For it remains a sad and worrisome fact that from the most forgotten corners of our country to the highest echelons of power and influence, too many people remain prepared to think the absolute worst about Islam and Muslims. And too many more remain vulnerable to being made to think these things by others. As an academic, I know some of the trials and tribulations that go along with this educational mission, especially when so many of those who need this education do not necessarily want it. In fact, don't even know that they need it. I also know that the only thing that will sustain one in the face of this challenge is a deep, abiding, and selfless sincerity and sense of mission. This is what Dalia Mugahid has humbly and consistently demonstrated over the years, from her hard work with Gallup to her contributions as an author and speaker, from her leadership at ISPU to her work with the US government. Of course, the challenge confronting a Muslim educator, especially regarding things Islamic, does not always come from those who are to receive that education. As the saying goes, knowledge is power. And the carriers of knowledge have to guard against being seduced by the power of what they carry, against taking their knowledge as a means of elevating themselves instead of serving and empowering the people. God warns us about the dangers of this challenge several times in the Quran, where he speaks of communities only becoming divided after knowledge came to them, and they took it as a means of lording over one another. When the carriers of knowledge succumb to this temptation and end up caring more about popularity than they do about commitment, not only do they betray their mission, they can bring great harm to their people. For the example they set can become the model for entire communities. And when this happens, rather than being the glue that brings and holds peoples together, the prescription that builds and strengthens their psychological and spiritual immune system against the unpredictable trials and tribulations of life, knowledge can become the wedge that drives and keeps people apart. For her part, Dalia is not one to be seduced by the power of the knowledge she has been able to bring to her community and extend to communities far beyond. And while I have never spoken of this publicly, at least I think I haven't, I was personally afforded a very special insight into this fact back in 2009, when Dalia came to Cairo as part of President Barack Obama's historic visit. I too happened to be in Cairo at the time, teaching in a law program. And I remember seeing Dalia on Egyptian television, where interviewers kept pressing her to puff up her relationship and proximity to the president. Have you met the president? Do you brief the president? And on and on. Trust me, you have no idea how much pressure this was for an Egyptian American woman to be in Egypt as part of a US administration on the occasion of a visit by an American president who at that time was perhaps the most popular in recent memory. But Dalia consistently and gallantly resisted. It was a proud moment indeed, one, God willing, that I will never forget. It underscored the kind of servant that Dalia is, and it modeled the kind of person that we need doing the work that she does. It is in this light that I can say without hesitation that I am pleased to be part of this event this evening that recognizes her and her contributions. Dalia, it is my honor to present to you, along with Fuad and Nancy El-Hibri and Farhan Natif, the 2019 Peace Education Prize. Please join us on the stage.